Hello, I'm Richard Vobes, the Bald Explorer, and I'm once again reading another chapter from Rambles Around Willow Farm. This is a book that was written 100 years or so ago, and it looks at the farming practices of that period. We've come a long way with our farming practices, although there is a movement now to return to some of the more traditional ways and to get away from the intensive farming that we have been doing, where hedgerows were removed and great swathes of land were intensively farmed, and lots of fertilizers and insecticides put down, which has been detrimental to the wildlife and nature. And it's interesting to compare today's farming with how things were 100 years ago, really before all this new modernisation. So in the last chapter, and if you haven't seen it, do check it out, the videos are up, we were looking at how on this particular farm, Willow Farm, they planted, Mr. Hammond the farmer planted a field of barley. So this is chapter 6, and I will do my best to read it as clearly and succinctly as possible. Before the barley has begun to show above the ground, or even after it's appeared, the farmer sometimes harrows the field. Often in the spring, after a few showers of rain, there comes bright, hot sunshine. This may cause the soil to set hard, almost like pie crust. If the ground is allowed to remain in this state, soft showers will not be able to sink down to the roots of the young plants, and the barley will not thrive. The hard crust must be broken with the harrow. The tramping of the horse's feet and the harrow dragging over the ground will not hurt the barley, even if it's an inch or two high. At other times, the soil may seem too loose, and it needs pressing down. If so, the farmer rolls it. But as soon as the barley has been sown, or a short time after, another crop is sown in home field. Now this is strange, you might think, to sow two crops in the same field, one on top of the other. Yet it's what the farmer does, and we will learn the reason. When we spoke earlier about the rotation of crops, we saw that after a crop of barley or oats, it is usual to sow clover. Clover takes much longer to grow than barley. Barley is sown in March and April, and by August the plant is 3 or 4 feet high. The grains have formed in the ear, and it's ripe and ready to cut. Clover grows much more slowly. There is very little ready for the sheep to eat till a year after the seed is sown. And if clover is not sown until the barley was harvested, several months would be wasted. This loss of time is unnecessary. The clover doesn't injure the barley or oats by being sown at the same time. Now earlier we said that barley finds its food near the surface of the soil, while the long clover roots go deep down for theirs. When the barley is cut in the autumn, the clover will have made good progress. So by the following spring it will be thick and strong, so that shepherd can turn his flocks of ewes and lambs into the field and graze. Sometimes the clover is sown by a drill, as we saw the barley being sown. Often, however, it is sown broadcast, and the bailiff is sowing it that way today. He is a very clever and experienced man, and he needs to be so because sowing broadcast is work that needs great care, a keen eye and a steady hand. The bailiff goes to a corner of the field with a couple of sticks in his hand. He takes 2 strides along the hedge and sets one of the sticks upright into the ground. He then takes 4 more steps and sets up the other stick. He now goes to the opposite side of the field and sets up 2 more sticks exactly opposite the first. Then he slings around his neck a large wooden basket which is filled with clover seed from the sack lying under the hedge, and is now ready to begin. Standing by the first stick, which he set up, the one nearest the corner, He walks towards the stick opposite him on the other side of the field. He keeps his eyes fixed steadily upon it, and he is thus sure of going steadily straight. As he walks, he takes the seed from the basket, first in one hand and then the other, and scatters it before him. When he reaches the other side of the field, he walks down the hedge to the second stick, which is set up, and crosses the field again, sowing as he goes. He goes to and fro in this way until the whole field has been sown. Each time he crosses it, he moves a stick 4 paces down the hedge. Thus, he always has a stick in front of him by which to guide his eye. He's chosen a calm day today without wind on which to do the work. Wind, of course, would blow the light seeds about too much as he scatters them, and the crop wouldn't come up evenly. The clover which the bailiff sows today is red clover. Now, if he'll let us see a handful, we'll find that it's a rich, shining purple colour. Look closely at each seed and we see that this purple colour becomes a light yellow at one end. Here and there in the handful is a dull brown seed. Not many, however, otherwise Mr. Hammond would have sent the seeds back to the merchant from whom he bought them. These dull brown seeds are dead and will never produce a plant of clover. Sometimes the farmer sows a field with white or Dutch clover. If this is done, we can be sure that the bees will be very busy in the field when the white blossoms appear, for the flowers are full of honey. So too are the flowers of the red clover, but their honey lies far down in the blossom that the bees cannot reach it. Red clover is not sown in home field every 4 years. Because Mr. Hammond is sowing it now, in 4 years' time he'll sow Dutch clover, or perhaps another kind called alski. If red clover is sown too often, the field becomes clover sick. A little creature called eelworm attacks the stem, and so the plant dies. Nearly all plants have their enemies, some insects or disease for which the farmer must always be on the watch. One enemy attacks wheat, another one attacks turnips, and so on. We'll look at 1 or 2 of these enemies of the farmer later on. We may just notice that here is another reason for the rotation of crops. If the same crop was sown in one place year after year, the disease or the insect which attacks the crop would always find plenty of food it likes, and it would stay there. If its food is taken away, then the enemy must go elsewhere, or even die off altogether. And so that's the end of this chapter. The next chapter is a crop of turnips. So we'll be finding out all about that next time round. It's a fascinating insight, as I said, to how things were done, and very much with that broadcast hands-on without all the machines that we have today, and that is absolutely fascinating. And if you're enjoying the reading, do let me know and I'll carry on reading bits of it on an ad hoc basis. Later on though, he talks about various other animals that are on the farm, some of the wildlife, from the hedgehogs, an adder, the fox, a ring snake, wild ducks he's got here, things that you find in the lanes, in the hayfield, and so on and so forth really. And I'm fascinated to know how much of nature has changed in the 100 years and how much we've lost, if we have lost it, through the different practices of farming and all the flowers and the wildlife and the insects that we may have lost. People often say that when they drive around, especially in the evenings with their headlights on and lights attracting insects, there are less insects that hit the grille of their cars. So I want to know whether that's a true thing, that we've lost a lot of our nature, and because that must be affecting the world around us. Anyway, if you've enjoyed it, don't forget to give us a follow, a like, a subscribe, a thumbs up, that always helps the algorithm, and leave your comments below, and I'll see you on the next time. Thanks so much for watching. Till next time, bye bye.